So we are recording. What's happening, everyone? We are here to do the cast assessment for ZoomVIvor Season 6. Can't believe we're already at Season 6, but here we are. I'm Lauren Pratt. Along with me, Stan.
How's it going? Stancy here. Of course, Lauren and I played together on ZoomVIvor 4, which seems like a lifetime ago. It was really just last year.
Yeah, I was like over a year ago. And now I have to say, I don't really know what the criteria is to have us two do this podcast, simply because neither of us won the season. I mean, you got much closer than I did. I mean, kind of a little bit forgettable, but you at least made it to the end of your season.
Not like I had a fighting chance of winning in retrospect. Having watched the season, you get clarity, you get perspective, and you realize that, you build yourself up only to get really dressed down at the end. So it really humbles you. Now I have a very good idea about how a lot of the real players feel when they get on podcasts and they share their insights. And it really comes from a place of knowing where you messed up and what you probably did right, probably more on the where you messed up bit from where we're sitting here. But let's catch up a little bit and give everybody a status update of where we're at or where we have gotten ourselves into since the game ended last year for us.
Yeah, so I mostly just went into the hosting role over on my side of things, and we are now under Dynamic Character Productions is what our group is now. So we have new org material coming out, and then I also played one other game, and that was Prometheus, but that's the only game I've played since ZoomVIvor. So I'm still very much laying low. I am officially retired though. So let it be known, I am retired. But what about you, Stan?
I've just really been working. I haven't really played any Survivor org since ZoomVIvor, so technically this is the last org I've gotten myself into since the game ended. I also have stopped doing radio because of the pandemic, fucking up business everywhere. But the VO career has been taking off, so I recently signed with a supermarket based in the States to provide in-store radio for them, and I've joined WWE as a commentator in one of our languages, Tagalog. So it's been a really big year since ZoomVIvor. So thanks ZoomVIvor for strapping on the Rockets.
See, that's awesome for you. You went down the job route, and I didn't even talk about that. I was just talking about orgs and everything. But I did get a new job at my current university. I'm now the director of student engagement. Loving it. It's been really fun, really enjoyable. But excited to be able to do this with you. I guess my night, your morning, and just to dive into this cast, because I will say we're basing everything off of what we saw in the intro videos from these people. Now, obviously, I know a couple people on this cast because I've hosted a few people, and then Stan, you as well know a couple people on this cast.
Yeah, I know just like one or two people. I've seen a couple of names from the Filipino Survivor community, some of them pretty familiar, some of them in passing. And like you mentioned, Lauren, everything we're saying here is based on the extremely limited information we have, all of 78 glorious seconds from the ZoomVIvor Facebook page, on top of some personal insights with the otherwise limited interactions we've had with these people.
So let it be known, everything we say, just based off of your video. Don't take offense to it. If you do, you can fire your shots at me because I'm used to it. Stan, on the other hand, don't come for him.
Oh no, you can come for me. I mean, like unless you win the game, don't come for me. There, if you win the game, you can come for me, say whatever the hell you want. But if you haven't won the game, and if you make it third place, fourth place, 19th place, 20th place, shut up, go home, sit down, be humble.
Well, to be fair, we are not going to have a 19th or 20th place on this season because it is an 18th person cast. Unlike our season, which was 20, which is a massive cast, especially to have in a mini. But are you ready to dive into some of these players? I'm interested to see your takes and talk about them.
Yeah, sure. Off the bat, let me ask you though, what do you think about the whole theme of mind versus heart versus gut? Because my biggest question coming in was, how can you even tell?
Well, I'm curious about that as well, because let's compare us right now. So if I'm looking at these specific tribes, I don't even know where I would put myself, to be honest. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think some people can categorize themselves into these specific type of tribes. But at the same time, you have to have a little bit of all three, in my opinion, to somewhat be successful.
Yeah, one of the players that we're going to talk about actually mentioned how they should have the perfect balance, the perfect combination. But the way I see it, based on how I know people perceive me, I'm pretty sure they're going to put me on the mind tribe just because I fit the classic nerdy stereotype. Like, you're Chinese, you've got glasses, you speak like, you sound smart. So more often than not, I probably get lumped into the whole brains tribe category. But that's just how I think people think of me.
I would also agree with that, but I would also put you in the category of gut as well, just based on, the gameplay that I saw in Z4. For me, though, I don't even know where I'd be. Definitely not heart. Heart not there.
Oh, no. I'm gonna argue that the heart is there because you are a spitfire. You're like, I want to blow shit up at tribal. I want to make some noise, and that comes from a place of emotion where you want to trigger other people's emotions to do something that they're not supposed to be doing, or that they know that is actually going to be bad for their end game. So I can see an argument in the opposite direction here.
There's potential, but 110% not mind, because I couldn't even start the maze puzzle from our season. So that just is like not my forte. But again, it's not about us. It's about the Z6 cast. And I'm super excited to see how each and every one of them does on this season, because you have a couple of people that we're familiar with, in the sense of we know that they've played at orgs in the past. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do. And then there's fresh faces from various different countries. So it's going to be really good. But let's start with, also, I don't know how to pronounce these tribe names.
Neither do I.
Yeah, don't come at us. We're trying our best. But let's get into this. It's the Heart tribe, and it's I'm gonna go with Kawak.
I'm gonna give it a go and try Kawak. So there, that's two possible pronunciations. I don't really know. I don't really care. Let's call them the Heart tribe.
The Heart tribe. And James, let us know if our pronunciations are even remotely close. We want to hear this. So let's talk about our first person that I have on my list, and that's Patricia. And Patricia is from Peru and wants to really meet some new people, is kind of what we got at the beginning of her video there.
Yeah. So she talks about being a longtime fan of Survivor, and then she tries to quote John Cena and the whole never give up thing. She's like, no, giving up is not an option, which is great and all, but when you're a first time player, my biggest concern is if you even know what to expect. Because, like, you and I have played orgs before getting into ZoomVIvor, but when I entered the Zoom call and saw all these new faces, half of you from the US, right, and half of us from the Philippines, I basically took everything I thought I knew about playing a mini or about an org, and I threw it out the window, because playing on Zoom is a whole different beast in and of itself.
Oh, absolutely. If you haven't played before, you don't know what to expect, especially because a mini is so fast paced. You have to be on your toes constantly. There's no resting time. And also, something she has is, will be loyal to the ones loyal to her. And that's a great quality to have. But at the same time, you have to know when to pull the trigger, because sometimes if you are loyal to a fault, you might be sitting at the end with someone that can blow you away with votes.
Yeah, I also had that particular quote in my notes too. But my question for Patricia now is, how do you gauge loyalty when your tribe is losing pre-merge challenges one after the other? Remember, these are 3 tribes of 6. There's really nowhere to hide, as we saw in Survivor 41. We also saw that in Survivor Philippines, right? So if you end up in a Matsing situation where you just keep losing and losing and losing, you're either going to end up like Shan or Ricard, or you're probably going to end up like a JD who gets booted early on. So do you want to get to predictions here? Or do you want to talk about the more about the video?
Well, so this is my prediction here. And I have to say, based on the video, it was a little windy out there. So my prediction is, I hope it's not foreshadowing that she gets blown away by the competition.
Oof. Yeah, I'm going to have to sadly agree here. My prediction, based on all 78 seconds of her video, is that she's probably going out pre-merge.
That's right where I have her. And I love to be wrong. So Patricia, I hope you prove me wrong, but just based on the video, I'm a little concerned about what's going to happen for your game.
Yeah, please prove us wrong. Please make us look like we have egg on our face. I'd actually prefer that.
Oh, me too. I prefer being wrong, especially with cast assessments. But next we have Chris from Mexico. So another country right away. So we got 2 new ones right off the bat there.
Yeah, he says he also goes by Galindo, so I have no idea what to call him, Chris or Galindo. His lower third says Chris, so let's stick with Chris. Props to him for including footage of him kayaking because that was one of the montages and B-rolls that stood out relative to the rest. Shout out to the producers, by the way, basically James and Rain and everybody else for stepping up their editing game once again. You know, it only makes me wish we had played in a season with Rain in there, with James stepping up his editing skills and all that. But whatever. Where we're at. I actually like this guy. He said something that really tickled my fancy. If you do something against me that can hurt my heart, I'm going to do something against you, which gives me a lot of villain upside.
Yes, and a little bit of a fiery side as well. I also really enjoyed his vibe and everything. My only thing with the kayak is I don't know what show he thought he was signing up for, but there's really no physical competitions in a Zoom game. I mean, there's a couple endurance ones here and there, but he looks to me best suited to be out on the island, not necessarily playing through a computer screen. But I do think people are going to gravitate towards him because he comes across very likable and someone that people are going to say, I think I can work with this guy. The only thing I think he could run into is being a threat further on along in the game.
He's also very self-aware, or he seems to be self-aware about the potential language barrier, which a lot of people don't actually consider when you play a game like this, especially with people from different countries, people from different time zones. I mean, in our season, we only had to worry about the American time zone, right? And the Philippine time zone. And even for someone like me who's ESL, English is a second language, right? I was already struggling at times to come up with the right words to say. What more if you know that you're not as fluent in English as everybody else who speaks it more naturally than the others? So that's actually something you have to consider when you play a game like this over the Zoom platform.
Yeah, it's really difficult. There's so many different factors that come into a game such as this because you have to look at it. Anyone that's going out on an island, they don't have all these barriers that they're going to have to deal with. But in a Zoom game, you can get people from so many different walks of life, so many different countries. So you have to factor in all those little tiny pieces here and there. But I do think Chris is someone that's going to be able to overcome that. My only fear, though, is he needs to make sure he gets in right away with people and not wait too long.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught ZoomVIvor 5, but I think Chris has some Bads upside here. And Bads was one of the standout characters from ZoomVIvor 5 as a villain. He made the merge, but got clipped somewhere in the middle of the merge. And I think Chris kind of gets clipped at, I don't know, Final 8 or Final 9 or something.
Yeah, I could see him definitely making the merge. And like I said earlier, coming across as a threat. I don't think he's going to make it to the end, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I do like him though, and I'm excited to see how his gameplay unfolds this season.
All right.
But with that,
Yeah. Let's get to the next one.
yeah, let's get to the next one. And I believe this is a person that you know on the cast, and that's Casey.
Okay, so I don't know Casey per se. Like I'm not sure if we've interacted in like a private message setting or whatever, probably in one of the Facebook groups that we're both in. She's 37, a corporate lawyer based here in Manila, calls herself a super duper fan, calls herself an empath, and immediately I got flashbacks to Kara from Australian Survivor from this past year. And if you don't know what an empath is, they can feel or sense other people's emotions, and they're very adept when it comes to nonverbal cues, which is really curious to me, especially in Zoom. Like, how are you able to pick these things up when you have all these other screens, or when, ticks like fidgeting with your fingers? You can't see that all the time because, like, I can only see, I don't even know where your hair ends, Lauren, and you can't see where my hands are at, right? So I don't know how you can take advantage of that as an empath.
Yeah, she's an interesting casting choice for me because I do think that she's going to be able to read people throughout the game because I'll talk about this because I'm going to relate it to our season in particular a little bit. So much of it is based on Messenger, right? So a lot of it's not you in a breakout room with other people and having those face-to-face interactions. You're relying on messaging on your phone and hoping those people are with you. So you can't see eye contact there. But what you can see is if you're in a big room with a bunch of people and your head's down looking at your phone and someone else's head's down, that means those people are probably talking to each other, which means they might be in an alliance with each other. So being able to have that self-awareness in looking at, all right, who has their head down at what time and who's actually paying attention to what other people in the group are saying. And that's something that you can recognize, especially at the tribe phase portion, because say your tribe wins, people are going to be messaging, but you're going to know who's messaging with who if you're paying attention.
I remember you brought this up in the coverage of last season of ZoomVIvor on Casey's podcast, and that was an insight that I never even considered when we played, which proves that you're way better at this shit than I am. But to take it back to Casey, I know that she's played other local orgs before. She played in a very controversial season here in the Philippines alongside James, actually, just this past year, where she placed 6th. Now, to my knowledge, she wasn't part of the dirty stuff that went on in the game, but she's also described herself as someone who's been involved in high profile cases and big money transactions as a lawyer, particularly, and this is something she mentioned in the local sphere, she's represented a family of former dictators whose politics she doesn't necessarily agree with. That stands out to me because that takes a hell of a lot of cognitive dissonance to represent people whose politics you inherently disagree with and still defend them, all for the goal of making money, all for getting that bag. If you can take that shit and transfer that to the game of Survivor, then all bets are off.
I absolutely agree. And I normally would say people that have this type of job, this type of occupation, I get worried for them because sometimes they can come on a little too strong, and that makes other people say, I'm going to take a step back. I'm a little unsure about this person, but I don't see that with her. I do think that she's going to be able to create those connections, those bonds with people, make them feel comfortable with her. And I think that's going to help carry her through to the merge phase. Now, from there, I kind of see her finishing, maybe in the 9th, 10th position.
Interesting. See, here's my take. If the family of dictators she's described is the same family I have in mind, then I abhor the hell out of them, right? Don't agree with that shit. However, I am willing to put money on Casey, and I'm going to predict that she is the fallen angel of the season, or better.
Okay. I love to hear it. Casey, you have a big, huge fan rooting for you. I'm rooting for you as well, but not as much as Stan. But with that, we're going to go to Mark, who I'm going to flat out say before we even start talking about it, I really like Mark. I think Mark is very charismatic, and I think people, that accent in particular, the UK accent, that draws people to your side.
Yeah, I love this video right off the bat. James has said that each person's video teaser has a specific track that he chose specifically for them, right? And I love the new wave in Mark's video, which tells me that this is a guy who definitely loved the sound of the 80s, definitely loved music from people like The Cure, I'm guessing. I'm just really basing it off stereotypes here, right? He strikes me as someone like David Tennant, the guy who played Kilgrave in Jessica Jones. Again, all based off the glorious 78-second videos. I gotta ask, there's a shot of him playing the piano in his video, and I'm like, why?
We're going to get to the why with a couple people with what they're doing in their video, but I agree with you. That's a little one that stood out to me, but not the major one that stood out to me. And we will get to that one. But I also think with him, he did say not really good at hiding his emotions, which can be a good thing and a bad thing in a game, depending on which situation you're in.
Yeah, okay, so he's an assistant principal, right? And he's 39, and from my experience of being in school, both, as a student and now having taught at both the high school and university level, being an educator actually gives you good practice in terms of dealing with different types of people, because when you interact with a bunch of students, you never know what you're going to get, right? Sometimes you're going to get the suck-ups, sometimes you're going to get the people pleasers, sometimes you're going to get the jerks who, or the rich kids whose parents are just going to pay you off so that they can, pass and get to the next level. Mark's seen it all, right? I have no idea how he's going to deal with all those different components. And then you throw in the factor that, there are people who might be insecure about the language barrier. We talked about Chris earlier, who brought this up. So I don't know if that's going to make him empathetic towards them, or if that's going to make him want to dismiss them right off the bat because he's like, I'm not sure if I can forge this connection because of the language barrier. You see what I'm saying here?
Mm-hmm. I definitely do. And I think you bringing up what he does for his job, because occupation matters, because in this job in particular, as you said, you see so many different people at their highest high and their lowest low. And I get that as well with what I do with my job in particular too. You never know when you're going to see someone on a bad day. And I think you can use that to your advantage though, because if someone's really pissed off, he might be the person that can kind of rein that person back in, calm them down, and get them on his side. Or it could be another thing. They lash out and he's like, I'm done with that person. I don't want to work with that. So it can go either way.
So the way I see things going for Mark here is I think he's a bit of an outlier because he skews towards the older end of the age average of the cast. A lot of these people are in their 20s, right? Some of them Gen Z, most of them millennials. Mark, I would say, is probably in the Gen X category, and I'm not liking that in terms of his chances just because traditionally when you get into orgs and minis, when you're somebody who skews towards the older side, your chances probably go lower because you're less relatable to the rest of the cast. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say Mark is probably gonna get booted pre-merge.
Well, looking at this tribe, because we haven't talked about everyone, the good thing about this tribe is there's three people in their 30s and then three people in their 20s. So he might still have a shot with that, but he is definitely on the older side. I think the only way he goes pre-merge is if he doesn't make those bonds and connections. If he waits too long to reach out to someone and want to form an alliance, he's going to be in trouble. But if he is able to get in that majority alliance right off the bat, I think he does fairly well in the game. So it's just going to kind of depend what he's able to do at the beginning, because the beginning portion is so crucial. If you wait too long, you get lost in the shuffle and that's it. You're at the bottom right away.
100%, totally agree.
All right, so we have Earl up next. And Earl, to me, video editor, I think he has couple things going in his favor. It seems like a really huge competitor and might be a beast in this game.
Right. He says all bets are off when it comes to competition mode, and I can actually speak from experience because I've hosted a game where he played in person. So back in the pre-COVID world, I used to play, or I used to be part of this group called ZoomVIvor Batangas, where we'd go 3 hours out of Manila and play for an entire weekend with physical challenges and all that good stuff, right? And after I'd played, I joined the committee and I basically acted like their Jeff Probst. And when I did that, Earl was in that season and he was a beast. He was also an outcast socially. I don't remember exactly why, but I remember he might have ruffled a few feathers and fell out of favor in both his pre-merge tribe and in the merge tribe, so he was relying on his challenge competency to try to get him to the end. And if you try to haul away yourself to the end, unless you're really a challenge beast, that's not exactly the best way to win a season. So I don't know. I'm excited to see how he adapts. This dude is also really, really into the minutia of Survivor trivia. He won ZoomVIvor Quiz Night last year, which Chaos Cast was a part of, and was actually the prize of the prize was a video call with her over Zoom. So he knows his stuff. And my question is, will all of that pay off?
That is the $1 million question right there. And that's the thing about people that have played in past games before. You can learn from mistakes that you did in that previous game. Now, the question is, do you take action to fix those mistakes? Because people say all the time, I'm going to come into this game and play differently. And then they resort back to their original gameplay. It's really difficult to change your game style. But if people are savvy enough and able to do so, they do fairly well for themselves. So I think Earl has a strong potential to do well. And I just hope this doesn't happen. What you mentioned is he was kind of a little bit of an outcast in his original tribe and then at the merge. So if he didn't learn from his previous mistakes, he could be getting, scooted out the door kind of early.
Hey, you bring up a great point when you say that it's hard to play against type. Like, and I say this keeping in mind that it's hard to not be who you are when you're playing a game of social politics because you naturally tend to gravitate towards your instincts, towards who you really are as a person, right? And Earl is pretty quiet. He's pretty reserved. I would love to see that intensity light up once again. So I don't know. I'm probably gonna peg him somewhere around final 6, final 7, or probably in the mid jury spot. I think he still makes the merge, but if he's planning to beast his way to the end, I think he's got another thing coming for him once again.
Yeah, you really can't beast your way in a Zoom game. I gotta be honest, because the challenges are crapshoot challenges. You never know what challenge is going to come at you, and you never know what you're going to need to do.
Cue Rain just laughing her ass off because she did exactly that in our season.
Yeah, I didn't win shit. Oh, yeah, I did. I won Battleship, and that was just luck. I just guessed where it was supposed to be. So I won a luck game, whereas Rain won things that weren't necessarily luck. She had to have skill to be able to do those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But let's get to our last person on the Heart Tribe. That is Carrie. And I know Carrie because I've hosted Carrie in a game before. So it's interesting to see her come back. And she's also someone that works around students a lot because she works in student affairs. So she is a people person. She's very social. She will come across likable. My only concern for her is she doesn't know when to pull the trigger.
Yeah, she mentioned learning from the mistakes of her past. So tell me about these mistakes, Lauren.
She did really well in the first game that she played in. I believe she finished in fifth place, fifth or sixth. I can't remember. It's been a minute since I hosted that game. She was very liked by basically every single person in the game. So she had an amazing social game. Her only problem is she didn't realize when to make that move against the people that she was close with. And
Oof.
I think that's what really hurt her, and that's how she ended up exiting from the game. Her only other downside is she's not the best at challenges, but as we said, you can be really good at one challenge and really bad at another. But at the same time, she is really intelligent as well. So she has a lot going for her. I mean, she also could have, in my opinion, maybe been on the Mind Tribe as well. So she has those two facets going for her. But I will say, I think she's going to be able to get an alliance because she is that liked. And so I don't see her having an issue in the pre merge portion. I see her maybe having more of an issue once she reaches the merge.
So she comes across really sweet to me, and I think that she probably represents the Heart Tribe the best based on the presentations of the video teasers because she does mention making decisions with her heart, and that, as you said, she didn't know when to pull the trigger. That scares me heading into a Zoom game because, again, if you find yourself in a situation where your tribe just keeps losing, and if you don't know when to pull the trigger, before you know it, the trigger might be getting pulled on you. So I don't really have a good feeling about Carrie here. I'd love to be proven wrong, want to see her get further ahead, but I think she doesn't make the merge either.
Okay. Yeah. And like I said, with her, it's going to be really interesting to see what she can do. If she can learn from her past mistake, I think she'll be okay. The question is, as we've talked about before, are you really able to execute that? Because it's not easy. I just think what she does have going for her, she'll be able to find an alliance. I don't see that being an issue for her because she is well liked. But then again, as you said, if this tribe loses time and time again, you're going to run out of numbers to vote out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that's the heart tribe. So let's move on. We got guts, right? Let's
Yep.
talk about the gut tribe. I think I might get this one right. Allen.
I guess it sounds like an English name. I don't know. Could be Olin.
We're gonna go with Allen.
Yeah,
It
let's go with
sounds
Olin.
good. Sounds
Mm-hmm.
good. Let's talk about our first person, Buching.
Okay. Bunching is from Cebu, which is south of Manila, about a couple hours or an hour, couple hour away by plane. She's 22. She's a sports writer. Calls herself a geek. Really loves anime, Star Wars, and Star Trek. And my biggest question coming out of her video was, why were you shooting in the car with your mask on? I mean, I would have wanted to see your face, get a sense of like how you compose yourself in front of the camera, because that gives me an insight to how you conduct yourself on Zoom, right? You have the limitations of the online platform, so I want to see your face. I want to see how you talk. I want to see if you pop off the screen right when you're shooting your video. But she comes across as somebody who might be the breakout star, but hopefully for the right reasons.
So you mean to tell me you didn't get enough information from her about love and anime, the Star Wars, and cake? I mean, we got all the words there. You just might not have seen all facial expressions.
I don't know. I like to pick on these little things, and I'm pretty tired of COVID here. So anytime I see somebody with their mask on, with those stupid face shields, which the government has made so much money off of, I'm just like, come on. I wanna have this sense of normalcy here. So come on, Bunching. I should have unmasked. I mean, should have shot at home where you could have unmasked or whatever, but fine. I've got some insight on a game she previously played earlier this year. It's a game called Stranded. It's a 39-day org, and what her hosts told me was that she was more of a follower than a leader, and she got booted somewhere around the final seven or final eight. I don't know how that compares to what she'll do in ZoomVIvor because it's a more compressed game, and as we saw from Survivor 41, when you've got a more compressed game, the emotions are heightened, people are making moves even faster. What more in a game where you're only really playing for like 24 hours because it's 12 hours for day one, another 12 hours for day two.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because she does mention doing things people don't expect you to do. So again, maybe has learned. And when someone says that, I kind of get, all right, they're a little bit savvy. They know what's up. They might be thinking and like the real thing is making sure other people's like wheels are spinning in their head. And I think she could be someone that does that to other people, plant the seeds here and there a little bit in her benefit. And I have to say, I'm gonna put her in my top 5.
All right, that's an interesting call. You know, there are some people who skew towards the younger side, and if they come across as really sweet, like I said, they could be the breakout star for the right reasons. They could also be somebody that everyone just gravitates to within the course of the game. That being said, I think she could have Jamie upside, as in Jamie, the runner-up from ZoomVIvor 3, who was also skewing towards the younger side of her cast and was generally likable. I don't remember quite much if she was also seen as a follower or if she was seen as somebody who had agency in her game. And I think that that's something people look for in women, especially if you come across as really sweet and likable and very personable, right? They don't really see you as somebody who can take charge and take control of your narrative and of the game. So if Bunching can put all of that together, I think she gets far ahead. But as for my prediction, I think she gets clipped at 6.
And that's the huge thing too that you have to deal with. You have to come across, especially if you make it to the end of the game, to the jury that you made these moves in particular. If people just see you as someone that coasted there or didn't really do anything and you were kind of just behind the scenes, they might not reward you their vote because they don't know what your game style was. And so I do think if I said top 5, if she is able to make it to the end, what is your pitch to the jury that's going to separate you from all the other people you're sitting next to?
Mm-hmm. So there, I think I think Bunching does have potential in the game, but I don't know if she can put it all together.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. Every single piece has to align because so much of this game, yes, it comes down to social ability, physical ability, strategy, and also luck. And so you have to have every single thing fall on your side in order to have a winning game. It takes a lot to have a winning game. But let's get to our next person who I have to say, the video, in my opinion, didn't give me much. I don't know if they filmed these videos before the game or after the game. So I'm a little concerned about Roberto.
All right. Roberto is 33, mechanical engineer, living in Saudi Arabia, but originally from Venezuela. Two things stood out here. First off, on the negative side, shooting outdoors could be a great idea, but when the wind just gets in the way of the audio, it really doesn't give you much in terms of, the actual content, like what you have to say, right? But the music, though, is pretty badass, and it kind of gives me a straight guy vibe, which is really funny because we don't get a lot of straight guys in ZoomVIvor. I mean, our season had quite a bit of them, but as a whole for the game, there aren't a whole lot of straight guys. In fact, no straight male has won ZoomVIvor.
Hey, that is fair right there. And we see it in a lot of orgs. Most orgs are not predominantly straight males either. So it's not just ZoomVIvor. But I will say my main thing, the only thing I really got from the video was has a balance of all 3 of these traits for these tribes. So I can appreciate that because as we said before, you have to have a little bit of all 3 to be somewhat successful. But again, is he getting blown away too? Because I don't know. I just think, James, you putting these windy videos out there could be some type of foreshadowing, and I hope I'm right about it because I think it would be funny.
Hey, Roberto says he's got baggage from past decisions not paying off the way he wants. I'm not exactly sure if he's referring to past decisions in past orgs or in his real life, but I mentioned that no straight male has won ZoomVIvor, and I think that tradition sadly will continue. I think Roberto also goes out somewhere probably in the early merge, just because people are like, he looks like an alpha male. He's probably a threat. Let's clip him now.
See, this tribe for me is so hard to predict who's gonna go pre-merge and make merge because I have to say, out of the 3 tribes, I think this tribe might be the strongest tribe in terms of like who's going to perform well in challenges. And so I think a lot of them will make the merge portion. It just is who is it going to be. So Roberto, for me, I think just looking at this tribe, I think he might be one of the people to get clipped.
Clipped early or clipped in the merge?
Clipped early, just looking at who's all on this tribe, I do think maybe he might not be someone that is able to get in quickly enough with the rest of the group.
I see what you're saying here, and I see why you'd say that.
Especially if he's filming outside or like, has his computer outside. I just think that could maybe be an issue.
It also doesn't help that he's the only one who's not from the U.S. or from the Philippines. That makes him an early outcast, just based on location alone.
That is very true. So Roberto, we're gonna see how you do. I hope you prove me wrong. I love it when people do that. But we're gonna go to our next person, and this is one of my villains on my short list of villains. We have Cindy.
All right. Cindy is 27, also from the U.S. She says that she comes across as likable but can be sneaky and that people don't see it coming. She also says that she thinks that people won't feel bad if she slits their throat. But she also tells me that she has a goofy side to her based on that little montage of her just bouncing the ball, which I have no idea why that was her chosen bit of chosen clip for the montage. Now, okay, I don't know if this affects the way that you look at people in orgs played over Zoom, Lauren, but I generally don't like it when people's cameras are looking up, because that's what we got from Cindy. I think like her tablet or her device is flat on a table that's significantly lower. But if you have knowledge of video editing, when you have a camera shot from the low angle, it's usually to shoot someone who's intimidating, someone who's more villainous, someone who's looking down at you. And if it looks like someone's looking down at me, I kind of get scared when relating to them. And I don't know if other people are conscious about that when they're playing in games like these. Like, for example, my setup here, I have to have a laptop stand to elevate it so it doesn't look like my camera's looking up at me, right? Kind of like you.
That's an interesting point that you brought up, because I don't actually look at that, but I can get where you're coming from because, perception is everything. So if you find a little thing that might make you feel some type of way, well, that's how you personally feel within yourself. And that can be a huge factor with people. The reason why I say villain, though, about her is she says likable at first. How long can you be really likable at first before like the snake comes out? Because I could see if she's in a trouble situation with her tribe, she's throwing everything out the window. She's going to say, this person did that. This person in the line was so and so. And she's just going to let everything hit the fan, which is not necessarily the best thing to do. It works out for some, but others, not so much.
I like how you immediately predicted her as a villain just based off of that one quote, because I think she skews towards the sweeter end of the spectrum. And again, I could be wrong here, but she reminds me a little bit of someone like Erica from this season of Survivor 41, who is really sweet, really nice, a lion disguising as a lamb, right? That's kind of what she said in Survivor 41. I think she could have that under the radar edit like Erica did in the pre-merge of Survivor 41. But at the same time, I see her being a goofball, kind of like Erica Olsen from last season of ZoomVIvor. So I don't know. I really don't know what we have here. So I'm gonna take a shot in the dark here and say that Cindy's probably gonna make it to the end as a finalist.
Wow. Okay. I see we're going on two different spectrums here. You think that the villainous side might not come out so much with her. She might resort back to her goofy side, being in that likable situation where everyone's going to adore her. And if she is like Erica, well, Erica made it to the end of the game. So, I mean, you do something right by playing that way. But I got to say, anyone that says that they want to slit people's throats, they mean business. So we'll see if Cindy is indeed a villain on the season, or if she is just saying all these words and not actually doing what she says. But with that, we are going to transition to Kyle.
All right, Kyle is 25 from Manila. He's an account manager, and he says it takes guts to have fun. He's in it to explore new things, but also sees himself as a good strategist, someone who's charismatic and charming. And I love it when he said, fake it till you make it. And oftentimes when you play games like this and you get overwhelmed, that is a great strategy, to just fake it till you make it. I remember when I first played in a physical game, in a live reality game, I also had to fake it till I made it. And I don't know if that strategy works 100% of the time, but Kyle seems to be the type of person who talks a big game, but I'm not quite sure if he can deliver, because again, I gotta ask, I'm not sure if he knows what he's getting himself into here.
Well, and it's really difficult to be able to balance everything. And as you said, if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, you don't know how fast paced the game is going to move. And that could also be one of my concerns for him. And just the fact you said it takes guts to have fun. Does it? Because I think he's just going to be this laughable, just here to have a trip, go for a ride, and sadly exit the train early.
Yeah, I kind of have him pegged as a pre-merge boot as well, just because normally when you have someone talking a big game, and if they shoot it after the game, it doesn't really say a lot about how they fared in the game. So I don't know. I'm really hoping that these teasers were shot before they played ZoomVIvor, so there's a little bit more randomness involved, and not exactly a foreshadowing of the in the opposite direction. I'm not liking Kyle's chances here.
Yeah, and confidence is key as well. And he just didn't look super confident in his video, which to me tells me that he might not necessarily know A, what he's getting into, and B, if he's going to be able to sell it to other people and show people, yeah, I'm a valuable asset to have in this game. So I just think he's sadly going to be leaving us too soon. But let's get to the next person who I know on this cast, and this is the final person that I know, and that is Mckenna. She is 25 years old, works in retail and freelance editing. She is someone else I also hosted, and her and Carrie played on the same season in the org I hosted. However, because Mckenna had an early exit, she never met Carrie in that game, so they never crossed tribal lines there.
Hey, can you give me insight as to why Mckenna always ends up pre-merge? That's something she mentioned in her video, and I really want to know why.
Okay, so this is why I think Mckenna ends up pre-merge. Her biggest issue is she's a great strategist. She's able to get in really good with other people, but those people recognize how threatening that she is and decide, let's clip her right before the merge so we don't have to deal with her in the post merge. That's her biggest issue. I think if she is able to lay a little bit low, doesn't have to come across as that threatening, because she's social, she's personable, she has everything there to make herself have a winning game. Just the problem is you have to not make it known to other people that you can be that big threat and have them want to clip you right before getting into the next stage of the game.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I would interact with someone like Mckenna if I ended up playing with her, right? Because I usually like to gravitate towards the nerdy types, just because I relate to them really well. And I think Mckenna is one of those nerdy types. And if she comes across as someone who has a bigger personality than me, that's a great shield I could hide behind. So I actually wouldn't clip her pre-merge, but that's me. I don't know how any of these other people would relate to Mckenna if they ended up on the same tribe with her. So I don't know. I think based on all these people she's playing with, she does stand out as probably the most game savvy one among all of them, especially given her experience hosting orgs and playing orgs. I'd like to say that she'll go far in the game, kind of like Evie did in Survivor 41, because I think Evie is the closest comp based on real players we've seen on TV. But I don't know. I think she might get clipped early as well, just because of the tribe makeup here.
I mean, yeah, she's a huge threat. She knows what she's doing. And as you just said, hosting games, when you host games, you're able to see so many different game styles, what works for those people. And I do think she is someone that is able to learn from her previous mistakes. But again, if people realize that how big of a threat she is, I do think she has the potential to get clipped. Now, what I will say is, we talked about it here. I think this tribe's going to win a lot. So I don't think she's going to have to necessarily worry about that right away. I'm predicting her finishing in maybe like the eighth or so position, kind of in that area, because I think she's gonna make the merge, but I still think she's gonna be taken out for the same reason: too likable, too much of a threat, and someone people don't want to sit at with the end. But I
Hey,
think
you
she
know
gets
what?
to the merge.
You know what? I'm gonna take back what I said. I'm gonna agree with you right here. I think she'll make the merge, but she won't get further than the early merge. There.
Yeah, I think so too. I think she has a lot going for her. It's just capitalizing on all of that and making it known. All right, I don't need to call all the shots. I can be in the background for a couple of votes, but I can have agency with some. So she's going to have to figure out her balance. And I'm excited to see what she does, because I haven't seen her play in a game in a very long time.
Hey, I'm gonna be rooting for her because I always love it when the nerds get themselves into games like this, and when they stand out and make characters of themselves. So let's go, McKenna. Let's represent the nerds here.
See, McKenna, you have two fans just chilling right here, rooting for you. So we're excited to see what happens. But let's get to our last person on this tribe, and we have MA.
All right, MA is 33 from the Philippines. He's a purchasing analyst for a mining company and also a content creator, and he describes himself as an online fame whore. And I know of MA because he is an influencer here in the Philippines, but he's also a huge Survivor fan. And we've had interactions, especially over the course of Survivor 41. Like, we'd message each other, even though we've never met in real life, we've never played a game together. Our only interactions are really based off of the fact that in the Philippines, there aren't a whole lot of people who watch Survivor 41 on the East Coast feed because we sail the high seas and shit. MA and I get to talk pretty early about the episode. So that's how we built a little bit of a connection. And based on my limited interactions with him, this dude is going out to entertain. He says he wants the title, he says he wants the money, but I think he's going to be the biggest personality in this season. Now, the question is, how will MA downplay his threat level? Because he's going to be a huge threat from the get-go, from the look alone, from the way he talks, right? So I don't know. I don't know what to say about MA as much as I'm really, really high on him as a character.
See, MA comes across to me as someone that is going to be a hypnotist on this season. I think people are just going to look at him and say, all right, I got to be with this guy. I don't know what it is, but he's reining me in, and I feel super confident, super good with him. He could be a potential puppet master. So I'm excited to see what he does in the game. And just the fact that you're saying online playing whore. I mean, owning it. How can you not love that? I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah. Now that I think about it, you mentioned MA potentially being a hypnotist. It's kind of like what Rain did in our season, where she really just had everyone from the Filipino side under her finger, and even Garrett and Gage, who were from our original tribe, had them under her finger as well. And then she just clipped everybody where she felt it was necessary. So I don't know. I hope that people learn from our mistakes because if this cast is as smart as I think they are, I think they're going to boot MA at the merge. That's right. I'm predicting him as the merge boot of the season.
Wow. Okay. I I disagree. I think MA has upside to be like that sixth place finisher or so. So right around that ballpark. But what I will say is we haven't talked about this yet. Confessionals in this game matter. And I think regardless of where MA finishes, will be a genius in confessionals. I think hysterical, funny, knows how to be in front of a camera. So I'm excited to see MA's confessionals. I think they're going to be brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, I'm all in on the cutting confessionals. If you can give me the Todd Herzog or Courtney Yates type of material, or even the Ricard type of material where you're cutting people down, but you're doing it with a smile on your face, you still come across as charming, even though what you say can actually hurt some people. So I'm looking forward to everything that comes out of MA's mouth in terms of his confessionals.
Yeah, I can't wait. And that's the last person we have for the gut tribe. And we're just going to go all the way to our last remaining 6 players on the season. It's the Mind Tribe, and it's pronounced Sophos.
I guess it's Sophos. It comes across as Greek to me, so I don't know.
So we're going to go with Sophos, And I love these names, by the way, James. Way to pick out some killer names right here. But let's talk about our first person. We have Micah.
All right. Micah is 25 from St. Paul, Minnesota, and works at a bank as a branch services manager. And I love what Micah said about customer service because when you work in customer service or even in sales, right, you have to deal with different people. And if they come in and they're having a bad day, sucks for you. You have to deal with that, right? You have to adjust. And Micah knows what that's like. He also says he's not afraid to lie or get messy. And he also says that he's able to think of scenarios far ahead of his competition. And I'm not sure how that translates in ZoomVIvor because I found it incredibly hard to plan for a round or 2 rounds ahead when everything is happening fast paced and you're running on little sleep and you're incredibly tired and everybody, you can't have a good sense of what interpersonal relationships are actually like. Like, for example, you and I never really interacted in the game, and we only really became friends post game, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
if I'd known you and I would get along this well in the game, you and I would probably have been ride or die.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We didn't start on the same tribe, and as you just said, so difficult to think ahead because we saw it in our season. We had a tribal council where we thought we were voting someone out, and guess what? Shit, they're still in the game and they're immune. And then you're saying to yourself, "Oh God, I just voted for them, and they know I voted for them. I'm screwed." And so that's the thing about ZoomVIvor. You cannot predict that far ahead because there's so many twists, so many turns. Now, I will say, you get to the merge, easier to think further ahead and then align your pieces where you want them to be. But pre-merge, it's a crapshoot because there's going to be, I guarantee, swaps. There's going to be twists. You never know what's going to come.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that Micah really meant it when he said he's not afraid to get messy. Because in the great words of Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus, you will get messy, you will make mistakes, because that's really just the nature of the beast. So, I don't know. I will say, though, I did enjoy how Micah used his opportunity for the montage to shoot poses and be like a model, give off that aura, give off that energy and that confidence. I really appreciate that. But in terms of the game, I think he makes the merge. Not sure how much further he gets ahead of that.
Yeah, Micah comes across really charming as well. So we're going to see how he does. Hard to predict for me, honestly, but he might be like the second or so merge boot, in my opinion, like right around that area. Not
Yeah,
the
right
merge
after MA.
boot, not the merge boot, but like right around that area. But then again, I hope he gets messy. I love messy tribal councils, as you know,
Mm-hmm. All too well.
all too well. All right, let's get to our next person. It is Sasa.
All right, Sasa is 26. She's from the Philippines, and she's actually the first returnee of the ZoomVIvor series. She played in season 1, she finished 7th, and she was a big personality in her first season. All of this info coming from James because if you've been following ZoomVIvor, seasons 1 and 2 are not available. Like you can't find them anywhere. So Sasa has a huge advantage here coming in as a returnee, someone who played the game early on at the onset of the pandemic, and yet nobody has seen her play. Nobody knows what she's like. So I'm not sure how she can take advantage of that. I'm sure she will. I'm sure she can. But if she'll be able to capitalize on that the right way, then she's going really, really far into this game.
So I have to ask you, because you might be able to remember, is she the one that commented so much about my game in the comment section?
You know what? I think she was. Yeah. I mean, if the name stands out to you, I think she must have been that person. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So she was a hater of mine. Okay, noted. It's okay. Listen, all fun in games. I loved it. Not going to be likable all the time. It's more fun to be a villain. And that's exactly who I think you're going to be on this season. I think you're going to be a villain because anyone that says they're okay, if they have to be a bitch, tells me they're going to do anything they can to get themselves further in the game, and you're going to do whatever it takes. Whereas some people are going to say, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. She's ready to crush dreams.
Yeah, she actually said it herself in her video. She doesn't care about being called a bitch because she's here to play the game and she's transactional and cutthroat. So I'm loving it. I love the big boss lady energy, and I think that she either steamrolls it to the end or she sneaks her way to the end. My prediction is she's an end gamer. She sits at the end.
I think she's going to do very, very well pre-merge. Post-merge, I'm a little curious to see how that goes because if you come across as such a strong bitch, people might not like it and might want to get rid of you. So we're going to see how she does. I'm excited to see her play, though, because I love firecrackers. I love fiery people. I am on your side. I am rooting for you, even though you might not have liked my game style, but I think you have a little bit of you in me. So I'm rooting for you. Let it be known.
Hey, I for what it's worth, I love the video as well because of the dance hall music in the background. So that got my attention early on.
She just came across just bold, and you have to appreciate that about a person that knows themselves that well and that they're just that confident. You have to respect it.
Absolutely, 100%.
But let's get to someone on the younger side. I think the youngest person on this cast, we have Valis.
Yeah, Valis is 19, youngest person on this cast from the Czech Republic. He describes himself as someone who loves math, logic, and strategy, and he also loves to corrupt other people's minds and cause chaos. And again, this is all based on that quick teaser that James released. He shot his footage out in the woods, but he doesn't strike me as the outdoorsy type. Like, he strikes me more as the type of person who thrives more indoors, working with computers, playing online games, being kind of nerdy, much like myself. Like, you would not catch me dead shooting footage in the woods like a lumberjack. So I think there's a bit of dissonance there with Valis, and it kind of looked awkward, and that doesn't give me a lot of good vibes about his chances in the game.
So that's where I was about to go. Basically, the music, the little bit of bumping back and forth that he was doing gave me vibes as someone sitting at the corner at somebody's wedding and dancing with nobody and just by themselves. That's the vibe I got from this. Sorry, Valis. I just think you might be a little bit out of your element here. And again, I hope I'm wrong, but just something about the video didn't make me feel that he's going to be able to have agency in this game and get in an alliance. And I just think he's going to get left behind.
Yeah, when you say something like, I love to corrupt other people's minds and cause chaos, it's different when you say it outright as opposed to being the one to actually do it. Like, you don't tell people, I'm going to go organize a heist and rob the Royal Mint of Spain. You go out and fucking do it. You assemble a team and you make a plan and you make sure it goes off without a hitch. You don't just tell people that you're able to do it. So that's my biggest problem with what we've seen out of Valis, and I think he's going to get eliminated early in the pre-merge here.
I do think he's going to go in the pre-merge, but I will say one thing I did like that he talked about into math, logic, and strategy. And that's something that's really important to have because we see in ZoomVIvor, most of the challenges, especially in the pre-merge phase, require the mind ability. There's not really any physical challenges. It's all knowledge based typically from what we've seen in the past. So I do think that is something that he's going to be able to provide for his tribe as an asset.
I hope so, because that's probably the only way he gets to stick around, in the pre-merge phase.
I agree. Valis, good luck to you, my friend, and we're going to see how you do.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to Neil.
All right. Neil is 24 from the Philippines. He's a news reporter. And I love what he said about knowing how to ask the tough questions and how that gets you in trouble, especially in the Philippines, which is one of the most dangerous places to be a journalist. We have the highest rates of journalist assassination. Look it up. The numbers don't lie, right? So this is a dude who's used to getting death threats, and the motherfucker finds it fun.
Yeah, you can tell he's just like, I don't care. And the fact that he says in here, willing to fake cry. Listen, if anyone fakes cries in a game, makes it to the end, and comes and tells me that they did that at a final tribal council, I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm giving you the win. That's fucking gold strategy right there.
I also loved what he said about him calling people out who talk a big game but don't follow through. And I see that in some of his fellow castaways here. So, if you have the self awareness to know that some people talk a big game but don't actually follow through, then you're probably in a better spot than most of them. So, I also love that bit at the end where he talks about being a hero, being kind of like Superman, but then you blink twice, he's got a gun pointed at you, bam, bam. I really pot for that shit. So, I hope he delivers in the confessionals.
My only concern is look at this tribe here. We got some firecrackers on this tribe in particular, and I'm worried about this. Them clashing. Either they come together or they're going to clash with each other, which is why someone such as a Valis could sneak by if other people go after each other. And Valis is like, hey, I'm a number. I'm going to vote with your side and get myself to the merge. So we could see that.
I mean, when you're a news reporter like Neil, I'm guessing that you have to have a bit of social skills in you because you have to cultivate relationships with your sources. You have to cultivate relationships with the people you're interviewing to get the scoop and stuff. So I think he might be in a position where he forms some unlikely alliances with either people in his tribe or people at the merge. So I think that Neil, for as much as he could be the trickster in the confessional, someone who gives off Tyson Apostle vibes, I think he could also make it to the end as a finalist here.
Well, and I do think if he is able to get to then, he's going to be able to sell his story on what he did in the game. And If you have the ability to have those people skills and be able to articulate your game, you could play the most brilliant game ever. But if you cannot sell it to the jury, then they are not going to vote for you because they're going to say, all right, they weren't able to explain to me what they actually did in the game. Maybe they did play a good game, maybe they didn't. And the footage could show that. But jury doesn't have the footage to go off of. All they have to go off of is your words.
Right, right. I don't know. I'm gonna stand by what I said, and I think he makes the end. I don't know about you though.
I think he's in the merge, but I don't see him at the end. I think he's going to get clipped before that, just simply because to me, he comes off threatening. And as you get closer to the end game, I think someone's going to realize that and clip him before that.
All right. So there, that's the fearless forecast for Neil.
Yeah, the fearless forecast. We love to see it. All right, we have Aaron.
All right, Erin is 22, a biostatistics student from Chicago, Illinois. Her video stood out to me because the music sounded a lot like the intro to Katy Perry's "Hot and Cold." Clearly, you can take me out of the radio station, can't take the DJ out of the guy. But I loved it basically. I loved her video. People are loving her in the comments. Easily one of the more attractive people on the cast based on the comments. But she also describes herself as someone who's numbers oriented and logic oriented. And I think that goes a really long way, especially when you have stereotypes from, U.S. Survivor of really attractive people who try to get ahead based on their looks, but are actually secretly smart. In fact, there was a whole stereotype about it, right? The secretly smart bikini babe, based on the con stereotypes.
So that was one thing I was about to ask you. Do you think people's looks, even in an org setting, can help them get further, especially at the beginning stages of the game?
I'm gonna be the shallow straight guy and say, fuck yeah. Like, if a pretty girl is talking to me in a breakout room and trying to get my attention and trying to cozy up to me and, trying to form an alliance with me, more often than not, I'll probably say yes. And that's just the straight guy in me talking here.
No, and I see it. I love the honesty because I feel the same way. I think having the looks helps you get through the first couple stages of the game because people are only able really on a Zoom probably only going to see your face. That's about it. They're not seeing anything else. They're just seeing your face up there on the screen, and that's all they have to look at. Whereas if you're out on an island, they see more features of you for sure. But if you're looking at facial expressions, and first impressions are everything. If you have a nice, welcoming, warm smile, that makes people say, oh, I think I can work with this person because they're inviting. If you come in, such as a player such as myself, that kind of has a little bit of the resting bitch face, it's hard to read me and know, hey, she's actually a nice person. But we don't know that seeing the clip of 15 seconds of her.
I appreciate the self-awareness. I really do. But when it comes to Erin, I wonder how she's gonna downplay her intelligence because we've mentioned her facial features. They're gonna stand out right from the jump. But if she also starts talking intelligently or immediately bringing up logic and numbers and all that good stuff, she might find herself in trouble. She mentions wanting to align people with people who can complement her weaknesses. How the hell do you know who these people are in the context of a ZoomVIvor game? That's my question.
Well, and that's the thing. If you're playing a 26 game, which Survivor is now, you can recognize what other people's strengths are to help balance out what your weaknesses are. But in a game such as this, where it's only 2 days long, if you can pick up that quickly what someone's strength is, and that's one of your weaknesses, hats off to you. If she's able to do this, she's the winner of the season. I mean, heck yeah. Because that's just you being able to read people so precisely and knowing how you can use those people as puzzle pieces to get you to the end of the game. I like Erin. I think she's going to bring a lot to the table. I don't see her going pre-merge whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree here. I think she does make it to the jury. I would just lose it and find it hilarious if she passes herself off as like Erin from The Office, who's also really pretty and really cute, but is super goofy and kind of out there. If she's able to downplay her intelligence and pass herself off as someone like Erin Hannon, I would love it. I'd love to see where that character goes. But as it stands, I think she's mid jury.
All right. Well, we're going to see what happens. And let's get to our last person who might be one of my favorite people on this cast. Might I also say maybe Sherry 2.0? We have Heather.
Oh, yes. Yes, I was thinking the same thing, but that's only based on the archetype, right? She's one of the older members of the cast. She's 50, from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, a dental hygienist. But I think she comes across more personable than Sherry did, because Sherry is. You mentioned the RBF. I think Sherry had that too. So if I were in a Zoom call with Sherry and Heather, I think I'd be likelier to make friends, to make an alliance with someone like Heather than with someone like Sherry.
I see. I get where you're coming from for sure, because I think Heather will be someone that wants to backstab you, but she's not going to let you know when she's about to backstab you. Whereas Sherry, you might be able to see it coming.
Right, right. Exactly. I did get that sense in ZoomVIvor. In fact, I was waiting for when that Dakota Sherry showdown would happen, but it never did, which really disappointed me because I thought that that was something they were kind of setting us up for. But when it comes to Heather, she describes herself as well read, logical, intelligent, loquacious, and eloquent. That's a lot of big words. That's a lot of good words. And I hope she's able to downplay her threat level because the woman also says she's a control freak. So
Mm-hmm.
that gives me flashbacks to Rain, to be very honest with you.
Control freaks scare me a little bit because the problem is they want every single move to be their move. You have to have, especially in alliance, a little bit of give and take. Yes, you can have agency on some votes in particular, but if you want to be the head honcho on every single one of them, I'm getting rid of you because that's not going to work. That's not a good alliance member in my opinion. You have to have a little bit of a balance. But what I will say, I think she's going to make other people think that they're in charge when they're actually not, and it's her leading the show all the way.
I'm kind of worried for Heather here because she's easily the oldest in her tribe of young people. They're all probably Gen Z here. So she's 50, right?
Yep.
Micah's 25, Neil's 24, Sasa's 26, Valis is 19, and Aaron is 22. That's a huge age gap between Heather and everybody else. So she could easily be isolated just because of her age, and that's not something she can control at all. So if she can kind of come across as somebody that they'd like to keep around, I don't know, because she's cool, she's got tattoos despite being 50 or whatever, then I guess she could have something going for her. One thing I'll say is that this Heather's gonna be hard to miss, unlike the other Heather we see on TV. And I'm loving the energy at least because I think that ZoomVIvor Heather can buck the trend of the older women stereotype who've been cast so far on ZoomVIvor. People like Teacher Deb who are just super nice, or people like Missy who are driving all day, or Sherry who's like the RBF who's probably gonna be stabbing you from the front. I think she'll buck the trend of every other older woman stereotype, so she could easily be in the final five or even in that fallen angel spot as well.
I'm so excited to see what Heather's going to do in this game. I think she has a lot of game to play. I think she's going to be playing a good game at points here and there, but also I think she's going to run into a little bit of an issue at one point. And if she's able to recover, that shows to me great game player right there. So she's someone that I could actually see, and we talked about this before. Neil is someone I think has self-awareness to maybe work with someone that people wouldn't expect him to work with. So maybe those two pair up. Like that just stood out to me on paper right here. So I get that she is, half the age of most of these people. But then again, sometimes to me, keeping around the person that's a bit older than you is the best strategy.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen older women in particular get taken to the end just because they're a goat, right? But that also makes them a bit of a threat, which then makes them a meat shield when you think about it, because like they're the extra vote. They're the other person you're just dragging to the end, right? You've seen that in people like Angela from Ghost Island, or Julie from Edge of Extinction, or I don't know, probably Heather from Survivor 41. So I hope that Heather isn't typecast in that role, and I hope that she's able to take agency because, as she says, she's always fucking right, and I hope that we're fucking right as well when we call our shot on Heather.
I hope so too. Heather, I can't wait to watch your game style because I'm sure it's going to be interesting, if nothing else. So, with that, we went through every single person on this Z6 cast. Great cast, might I say. I think it's going to be a great season, going to be lots of fun. I'm excited for the twists and turns, and I'm excited to see who's going to be the next winner in the circle. So, with that being said, who is your winner pick?
That's tough. I predicted a couple of finalists here, so I'm actually going on my Google Docs and I'm typing finalist right now just to see which ones I had here. So I had Cindy, I had Neil, and I had Sasa. Uh, hmm. I don't know. I don't know who I'm gonna pick from among these people, so I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say Neil, just for shits and giggles.
You're gonna go with Neil.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man. This is like a shot in the dark here for me, but ooh. See, this is where it gets difficult because you can be so wrong and then just everyone's gonna laugh in your face when you get this very much incorrect. But I'm actually gonna go with MA.
Wow. All right. Interesting. Because I don't think MA is gonna get no anywhere near the end. I gotta say I'm pulling for Neil a little bit extra because he works in media, I work in media, so there's a bit of kinship there, even though we've never met. So I'm gonna put my money on Neil, and you can put your money on MA. I'm gonna say I'm gonna keep my prediction of him going out right at the merge, just because he's too big of a threat.
And see, like, this is the problem. I can't even remember what I said about MA earlier, where I said he was going to finish, but I changed my mind. MA is my winner pick now. I like MA's vibe, and anyone that says that they're an online playing whore, I'm here for it. I love to see it. So, MA, I'm on your side. And I will say the next person I would have in line that I was just close to saying because I think she has an upside to pull it off. I think Heather could pull it off. If she gets to the end, I think she could pull it off. Now the question is, can she get there?
Yeah, I'm actually more concerned about the twists here because as you and I know, James likes to pull all of these twists out of the bag, kind of like Jeff Probst does. So I don't know which twist can come in and just muck up somebody's game right off the bat. So I'm really really scared for that. But I'm excited, like you are, to see what happens in this season. And after this cast assessment, I'm probably going to be retreating back into my little hole and not leave any comments for the rest of the season. So this is probably going to be the last anyone hears out of me for at least this cast.
I'm normally pretty quiet, folks, so this might be the only thing you hear from me. But one last thing, who's first boot?
Ah, uh, hmm, man, that's a tough question to answer, and I think it's gonna be probably Valis, just because I think he'll be isolated from the jump.
I think I'm gonna go with Patricia.
All right.
I think Patricia might get lost in the sauce here.
Yeah. See, that's tough. I hate making the first boot predictions. I think this is the only time I've ever made a first boot prediction, just because I hate doing that. But yeah, that's the cast assessment. Those are the predictions for ZoomVIvor 6.
And I don't like to do it either, but then again, this is a cast assessment, so you gotta spice it up a little bit and have both ends of the spectrum. You gotta think who you're gonna have the winner, and I might have picked the winner, and that could be the first boot of the season. I don't know. That's why it is so exciting. I hope no one takes offense to any of this. We were just having some fun with this. I hope you enjoy what we said about you, and if you didn't, reach out to me. I will take the heat. I am no stranger to the heat, so please don't take offense to anything. And if you do, come at me. It's okay.
Hey, our DMs are open. It's at underscore Stancy on my end, on Twitter and on Instagram, so you can hit me up over there.
Yeah, you can just find me on Facebook and just send me a DM right there. But again, excited that all of you are joining the ZoomVIvor family. It's a great community. So we are both excited to see how each and every one of you plays. And again, just remember, it was just a game. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, I hope that you have a fun time as much as we did. I hope that you lose a lot of sleep as well, and that you are able to form some connections, cross-continental connections, cross-country connections, even cross-demographic connections, because you really do get a mixed bag out of ZoomVIvor. So props to James and to the rest of the production team for pulling off another one. Can't wait to see it all unfold through the end of the year and early next year. So have fun.
Yes, and hopefully Stan and I aren't fired from doing this again. So we'll see what
Oh,
the
nobody's
feedback
paying
is.
us. We're saying whatever the fuck we want.
Oh, with that, everyone, y'all take care. Good luck. Enjoy the season, and I'm excited to see if any of my predictions were right.
Same here. Bye bye, everyone. Keep safe. Peace.